All right, what's going on, everybody? James here with Heavyweight Politics, and today we got a crazy story, all right? I hope you're sitting down right now because this is something that I don't think anyone saw coming, anyone expected. The Vatican, all right, get this, all right, of all places, the Vatican will not bless same-sex unions. That's right, the Vatican is against gay marriage. Who would have ever guessed? Or at least that's what Twitter and CNN apparently are acting like at this point. So today we got a story here from CNN. The Vatican says it will not bless same-sex unions, calling them a sin. The Vatican said Monday that the Catholic Church would not bless same-sex unions in a combative statement. Hear that? A combative statement approved by Pope Francis that threatens to widen the chasm between church and much of the LGBTQ community. Now, it is funny, of course, they like to praise Pope Francis whenever he is speaking ill about stuff like capitalism. Of course, Joe Biden and them like to talk about how faithful they are to the Catholic faith. I think Nancy Pelosi said, "How dare you call me a liar? I'm a practicing Catholic. I would never lie." They loved just talking up the Catholic faith when it's about themselves, but the minute the Catholic faith does something that is, of course, Catholic, they want to call it a combative statement. They want to try to make it be a bigger deal than it really is, all right? All this really is that the Catholic Church has decided to continue their same stance that they've had for over just about 2,000 years now. Anyone who was ever even possibly shocked by a statement like that from the Vatican is, I don't even know what to even say. It's like they've never even studied any bit of Christian theology or any Abrahamic religions at all. Let's face it, all Abrahamic religions don't exactly look too kindly upon the act of homosexuality, right? Neither of them, whether it be Jews, Muslims, or Christians, all of them have their own beliefs when it comes to many different things, but when it comes to homosexuality, they all tend to believe it is a sin. Now, with that said, I think it is important to clear at least one thing up. For me personally, I really could care less. I do not care who you plan on being with. I do not care really about how you live your life, so long as it doesn't impact anyone else, so long as you're consenting adults. I'm more libertarian in that way. I really could care less what you decide for yourself. As far as I can say, I mean, if you can find, the same love I have for my wife and the peace that it's brought me in my life, then find that person, stay with that person. I really don't care if it's a guy or a woman or trans or whatever. As far as I'm concerned, if you're happy, hey, good on you. Congratulations, you found happiness. That's tough to find in this world. With that said, however, the church has a different opinion, right? And the church has had this opinion for over 2,000 years. You go all the way back to Judaism. They had the same opinion as they typically have now when it comes to homosexuality. And it shouldn't be a surprise when someone like the Catholics mentions something that is, of course, true to the Catholic faith. Explaining in their decision in a lengthy note on Monday, the Holy See referred to same-sex unions as a choice. Oh God, they referred to it as a choice. Describing them as sinful and said they cannot be recognized as objectively ordered to God's plans. This stance is certain to disappoint millions of gay and lesbian Catholics all around the world. Okay, first things first, if you're gay or lesbian, you can't really be a practicing Catholic. I'm sorry. All right, you really can't. I mean, some sects of Christianity offer a bit of leniency towards a lot of things. Obviously, I mean, kind of one of the old jokes about Southern Baptist is that, everyone drinks, just no one wants to ever admit to it, right? I mean, Southern Baptists have some weird stuff in their ideology, and that's kind of the church that me and my wife go to at the very least. I call myself a Christian. I'm not a very good Christian because, let's face it, I do drink and I do sin. But when it comes to the Catholics, they're pretty strict. They've had the same rules for about 2,000 years, and they have stayed true to many of their beliefs going all the way till now. If you are gay or you're lesbian, you could be a Christian, but I'm not so sure about the Catholic part. At the very least, you're not a practicing Catholic, right? That's like saying, I'm a practicing Muslim, but I don't pray as often as I should, and I still eat pork, right? No, you can't do that, right? You're not a practicing Catholic. You're not a practicing Muslim. You're not a practicing Jew if you don't follow the rules that are according to that ideology. You can identify with as a Christian overall. All right, I know a decent amount of gay Christians, but not really Catholics, because again, they are very strict when it comes to many of their rules. So in their statement, they say, the blessings of homosexual unions cannot be considered licit. The Vatican's top doctrinal office, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, geez, that's a mouthful, wrote in a statement, God does not and cannot bless sin. Now, I think a lot of this outrage comes from this misconception about some of the Christian views towards sin. There's an old saying in many Christian circles, of course, and I'm pretty sure many of you have probably already heard it: hate the sin, love the sinner, right? So someone could say that, hey, what you're doing is sinful. They do not think you as a person are a terrible person. So I, for one, of course, drink, right? That's, in according to Southern Baptist at least, a sin. Now, my friends who are also Southern Baptists don't look at me as an awful human being because I drink. They just go, hey, you probably shouldn't do that. The same kind of goes for gays, right? I mean, there's plenty of Christians out there. I've known tons of Christians who disagree with the idea of gay marriage, but who don't hate gays as people, who actually, of course, care deeply for them and simply believe what they're doing is sinful. I personally disagree. I don't think it's probably, I don't see how it could possibly be a sin to love someone, especially when you are pretty much born that way, and I do believe people are born that way. But for the people who do believe it is a sin, very, very, very few hate the sinner. Very few people in the Christian faith hate homosexuals, hate gays, hate lesbians. Very few of them hate almost anybody, to be perfectly honest. And if God says pray for your enemies, then we're also going to pray for people who just commit basic sin as well, right? So it's not, they seem to think that if you question the activity that someone participates in, you are invalidating them as people, right? They view it as an attack on someone. It's like that person who, you insult their favorite movie or their favorite video games, and they take it like a personal insult. No, we just have a disagreement. And the same thing when it comes to a church and, of course, the way people want to live their lives. Now, again, I disagree with this idea that homosexuality is a sin, but the Catholic Church has its own teachings. It has its own doctrine. There's a reason why I'm not a Catholic, right? I'm not a Catholic because I do not agree with the Catholic doctrine. If you don't agree with that, then just don't be a Catholic. Just as you have the right to live your life as you see fit, they have the right to believe what they want to believe. They have a right to say what they want to say, and they have the right to associate with people who they want to associate with. It doesn't mean they hate you. It doesn't mean they hate gays. It simply means they have a different set of beliefs, and I'm sorry, you gotta learn to accept it. And this idea that, of course, they are disappointing millions of gay and lesbian Catholics around the world, I'll be honest, I'm pretty sure that number's not in the millions in the first place. So in the article they say, Pope Francis, who has frequently been praised for his welcoming tone towards the LGBTQ people, both within and outside the church, approved the notes. Well, of course, he's the Pope. The decision is a setback for Catholics who have hoped the Institute would modernize its approach to homosexuality. Of course, modernize means, of course, go back on your own doctrine. Dozens of countries, including many in Western Europe, have legalized same-sex marriages, and the church reticence to embrace LGBTQ people has long held the potential to alienate it from younger followers. Now, I do love how they throw that in there, right? They're throwing it in there almost as if they're on the side of the church. It's like, oh no, the church is going to be alienated from young followers. Oh, that's going to be so bad for the church. The reality is, these people love the church in one sense. They want that type of control. They've seen how a church can have such a drastic change in someone's life or help someone change their life to a substantial degree. They want that control over people's lives. They just want the church to preach what they have in their doctrines, right? They want them, they love Pope Francis again when he's talking anti-capitalism. They'll be excited as can be over that. They won't question that one bit. The minute they disagree, though, with something like gay marriage, oh, now we're going to throw them out. Now we're going to throw them out right now. They love the idea of the church. They love the idea of a group of people that can, change the way others think is how they view it, at least. What they don't realize is the change that happens in people's lives because of church doesn't come from being pressured into believing a certain set of values. It more comes from faith, it comes from belief, it comes from this greater experience of this knowledge of course, Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. That is what creates the real change in people's lives, not being told, think this, think this, think this. But of course, the people on CNN, most Democrats and liberals, unfortunately, they typically tend to believe that a lot of change comes from telling people you will live like this, you will live like that. It's why they constantly are, of course, trying to take control of schools and take control of anything they view as an avenue to indoctrinate people into certain values. So they're still going to act, of course, a little bit like, oh, this is bad for the church, right? You want to get those younger followers because they know if they can get the church to bow down to them and spew their values, well, then they have the younger followers trapped. That is what they really want. So they're going to throw that in there, of course, to act like they're a little bit on the side. I do also find it a little funny. They say dozens of countries, including many Western Europe, have legalized same-sex marriages. Let's face it, for the most part, it's only European countries. I'm not saying there aren't a few, right? There are, of course, a few other countries out there outside of Europe who have legalized same-sex marriage. But for the most part, it's all European countries. All right? No, and the funny thing is, they're not criticizing China, obviously, for their handling of people who are gay or lesbian. Of course, they throw them in jail. They are not going to criticize what's happening in the Middle East where gays are thrown off roofs, but they'll criticize the church for just simply saying, we don't really agree with it. So they're going to criticize the church and go after church all they want, but they will never, ever go after anyone else. And they still try to make it seem like this idea that gays and lesbians should have the same rights as everyone else is outside of Europe. It really isn't, all right? This is still very much a Western idea, this idea that you as an individual get to decide your own destiny and no one else can tell you otherwise. This is uniquely a Western idea. Yet they still throw that in there a little bit to try to make it sound like, oh no, the world believes this. There's many, many, many countries out there that have this. Almost all of them are in Europe, all right? That's one of the things that makes the West the best, right? They continue on, it's not listed to impart a blessing on a relationship or partnerships, even stable, that involve sexual activities outside of marriage, as in the case of unions between persons of the same sex. So, two things here. They won't bless any relations that's outside the bounds of marriage, right? They don't believe that anyone should be having sexual relationships out of marriage. Now, admittedly, I like to see how many Catholics really hold up to that one, to be perfectly honest. But that is their belief structure. That is part of their doctrine. And so if you are not married, you can't have sexual relations. And because the Catholics view marriage as between a man and a wife, of course they're not going to give the blessings between a same-sex couple who has a civil union. That wouldn't make any sense. The statement says, gays and lesbians as individuals may receive a blessing if they live in accordance to the church's teachings. But blessing same-sex unions, the Vatican said, would send a sign that the Catholic Church approves and encourages a choice and a way of life that cannot be recognized as objectively ordered to the revealed plans of God. Again, this is all very normal. This is almost in every church, every religion, from Jews to Muslims to Christians. It doesn't matter. This is in every religion all across the world. The fact that this is even a story at all is just amazing. The statement was issued as a response to questions from pastors and the faithful on the question. In a commentary provided by the with the Monday statement, the Vatican insisted that the negative judgment on the blessings of unions of persons of the same sex does not imply a judgment on the person. So like I said, hate the sin, love the sinner. They're not saying that people who are gay or lesbian or trans should be looked down upon or hurt or anything like that. They're just simply saying, you know what, we don't totally agree with what you're doing, so we're not going to offer our blessings. And what I'd also ask is, why is someone who is gay or lesbian or trans even asking for the blessings of an organization that disagrees with their lifestyle in the first place? What's the benefit for you at that point? What's the benefit for me going up to a person who doesn't agree with anything I'm doing and saying, hey, I still want your blessing? That doesn't make sense. Part of freedom, part of accepting everyone is also accepting the fact people disagree with you. Part of freedom is accepting the fact that people will have different opinions than you. And guess what? The church has a different opinion when it comes to the idea of same-sex marriage. Again, I personally could care less. I, as an individual, do not care one bit who you're with. And in fact, I personally just think the government should be out of marriage in the first place. I don't know why I had to go to the government and basically ask for permission to marry my wife. That is absolutely ridiculous. I want the government to know as little about me as humanly possible, all right? The amount of information they have on us already is insane. I don't think they should be involved in marriage one bit, all right? But if they're going to be, at the end of the day, then yeah, they have to accept everyone, all right? Everyone should basically be a civil union, right? Whoever you're marrying does not matter, as long as it's consensual. The government must recognize it because it is the government. It has to recognize basically they have to recognize everyone in the country, regardless of your personal decisions. They can't stop you from living your life as long as it's not harming anyone else. And being with someone who you love does not harm anyone else. It is your choice, that person's choice as well, and no one else's, all right? No one can tell me who I can and can't marry, all right? I wanted to marry my wife. No one could have stopped me from doing that. So the government has no right to stop you. The church, though, does have a right to believe what it wants to believe and have its own opinion. The decision will alarm those who pin their hopes on a more open and progressive Catholic leadership under reformist Pope. Last year, it seemed that Francis had advocated for civil union laws for same-sex couples when he gave the interview for a documentary. Homosexual people have the right to be in a family. They're children of God and have a right to a family. Nobody should be thrown out or be made miserable over it, the Pope said, adding, "What we have to create is a civil union law. That way they are legally covered." So basically what I just said, right? The government has to the government can't tell you who you can't marry, right? The government has no right, no authority to tell you who you can and can't marry. That would make absolutely no sense. The government should be out of our lives as much as humanly possible. The fact that they say, and right after they say, but the Vatican quickly rolled back those remarks, saying that they had been taken out of context and did not indicate a change of doctrine. Guess what? If you read any of those remarks and thought there'll be a change of doctrine, you've taken it way off context, all right? I don't even know what to say to you. You are so blinded by your own ideology that you view everything through the prism of that ideology. The reality is, all he said in that statement was basically what I've been saying here, which is, no matter what people's beliefs are, we do need to treat them as human beings, because at the end of the day, they are people. Like he said, everyone's a child of God, right? It does not matter who they are, and everyone should be loved. Everyone should be taken care of. We want to basically, protect the rights of everyone around us, that there should be some civil union laws so that people who are gay can still be legally covered, because everyone should be living under the same set of laws depending on what our beliefs are. None of that had anything to do with the church changing its mind. None of it had anything to do with this change of doctrine when it comes to what the church views as marriage. But of course, that is the way CNN wants to run with it. They want to run with it saying that, oh, it was definitely a sign they're going to change. No. They've been blinded by their own ideology and now think that they have the right to force that ideology upon churches as well as everyone else. But what do you think? Do you think the church should allow gay marriage? Do you think maybe there should be some reform in Christianity to start accepting, gay, lesbians, and transgenders into the Catholic Church, as well as maybe other sects of Christianity on top of that? Or do you think that, those rules are there and that, listen, people gotta respect their view the same as the church has to respect the rights that the gay and lesbian community has when it comes legally? Either way, leave a comment below. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and we will be seeing you again next Friday.